with the adventurers having returned to Caer Konig, effectively Jarthra guiding you all back, um, keeping everything as kind of calm and maybe a little bit slower moving so you all can remain a little stealthier through the actual process, as everyone realistically had wounds to lick, regardless of the actual overall somber attitude. As you all basically, I would say on some level, probably took those blades from the destroyed sled and kind of made a beer to bear Luther's body back to Koenig. And I think at some point you would have kind of come into the town at night. And I think probably the most likely of things would actually be for Jarthra to basically bring you all inside of um, the outfitters, fast far expeditions, and basically let you take a long rest there. And that next morning, I think we would find that's where you're going to meet. Um, the other four will all be individuals who are actually at the Northern Lights. So, depending on how you all want to play this, how much you actually want to role play meeting your new friends, we could start with the four individuals in the Northern Lights, or we can start with the two who are basically going to be waking up pretty uncomfortable in Fast Far's expeditions. It is not an inn, um, but it is kind of like that last kind of stop when you're arriving very much in the middle of the darkest of the night. If I recall, you guys have not actually met. You've not actually gone to the Northern Lights, right?
Right. I think we were going to go there, but that's when, after we'd gone to the hook, line, and sinker, and then as we were headed over, that's when Jarthra found us and we headed out immediately. So we haven't actually been there. We've just heard about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I would say the meeting place where the four new adventurers are going to show up will be the Northern Lights. Do you all have any interest in playing out those characters prior to meeting the other two adventurers?
I mean, so my idea for Stavron is that he has come here specifically looking for Brannick. So he might have been in town for a day or two at the Northern Lights and maybe kind of probably learned that Brannick and several others had hired Jarthra and had headed out. So he's kind of just been sitting around the Northern Lights, kind of waiting until they get back. Um, so he would be kind of just kind of hanging out. So if the others, depending on kind of how the others show up, he would be. I'm happy to role play a little bit of introduction with him.
Larry and Rashad, do you?
I'm willing to just wait until we meet. I would like to introduce Johan a bit to the group. But I have nothing prior to, I have nothing to say prior to meeting.
Yeah, Florinda's just she's here looking for work, just looking to make some quick coins. She actually has no idea that Alexis is here right now because last they spoke, they had went their separate ways for a little while, so she actually has no idea what's been happening with Alexis. She just ended up in this town, and this is where she'll end up meeting her.
I feel like Stavrin might have, since he's kind of here and trying to find out information, he might have at some point, depending on if Johann was also at the Northern Lights, he would have struck up a conversation at some point, just trying to like kind of figure out if he had, knew anything about Brannick or heard anything, and then imagine that could be kind of how they came to kind of know each other and be um, together again, depending on what you want to, what your ideas are with Johann's arrival. I don't want to force anything on you, obviously.
Yeah, actually, that'd be perfect. So I don't know if who's your Stavrin? I don't know if he also would know of Luther, but Johann is also in town, and he's looking for some cleric of the of the weak god Luthander, and Stavrin, you know, you know, here's responsible for my brother's death. Um, so if Stavrin, and certainly when he sort of hears about the party, he says, "It sounds like they may be traveling together." I bear no ill will to his companions. It's his responsibility entirely.
So inside of the Northern Lights, this inn here, there are two sisters who are the primary caretakers of everybody there. At very least, with the two of you having your own conversation, you will eventually have one of them kind of picking up on what's going on, and Ali will kind of come up to you all at some point and, oh, well, there's actually a group who's recently left. They were helping us find some of our stolen things. People, some thieves in town. Well, they went off searching for them, and they seemed very helpful and perhaps capable of doing such things. But they've gone up into the north. They've actually left with Jothra from Frozen Far Expeditions. Um, but and she'll like look over into one of the corners of the room, and you'll see just a man who seems kind of like hunched over and drunk, and just seems well, most of his body is covered up and kind of contained in cold weather clothing. He does have a little bit more flesh kind of revealed than most people, and seems a little bit less bundled up and just kind of in an alcoholic haze. And she'll look over towards him. Provis, did you catch the names of the adventurers? And just see this figure kind of like take a moment to think things over before. I know we got some of their names, but I didn't meet any of them. And he just kind of like in a haze just looks over, and you'll see his face, while relatively humanoid, shows signs of actually having scales on it, as if perhaps there's some sort of curse or infection to his flesh, but his flesh is certainly not a more traditional humanoid flesh. And Ali will kind of look back to you all, and I'm pretty sure you all might find your friends returning soon enough. I don't know how long they can stay in the north without more provisions. They didn't take any dogs, or they should be back soon. They should be back soon. I'm sure everything will be okay.
Sounds like it could be them. Perhaps we should go check out this place for ourselves. And Stavrin will kind of nod and thanking Ali for the information and this And that was spoken to towards Johann, and then
Yeah, so their actual inn is far more like actual like small rooms that you can shelter in, and like a small kind of dining area than it is a large place. So realistically, every single one of you who are inside of the inn at present would easily enough hear that conversation.
So Johann, kind of sneeringly says, without enough provisions and without dogs, yes, that sounds exactly like the type of thing I'd expect from Luther. So Johann is his cold weather gear. You'll all notice is um, based on like oil skins and trimmed with seal fur. So and he speaks with I don't know the brogue of a seafarer, and he's accompanied by a half elf, who's clearly a bard, who is sort of constantly, every time Johann, sort of makes this a pronouncement of, anger or, grand things, the bard kind of rolls his eyes and strikes a dramatic tone. So Johann is kind of constantly being not quite openly made fun of. Um, his drama is sort of being played upon by the by Torlith, the bard that he's with.
You come with your own thematic music.
Oh, and another thing is Torlith always refers to Johann as Storm Herald in a great dramatic tone.
I want my own dramatic background music.
Yeah, okay. So Torlith is fine with improvising, little themes for everyone in the party. That's sort of what he does.
Definitely the bard out of Monty Python and Quest for the Holy Grail.
want to sing us some Sir Robin song. And Stavron would also be he'd be curious seeing this tabaxi here because he's never met a tabaxi, and so that might be, I don't know, a way to introduce Florinda to the group, and then if she wanted to um, come along as well when they head out.
She definitely agrees. She's a little bit hyper for right now for Tabaxi Road. She's just like she's had so much. She's I would describe her as having a lot of energy. So with her being a thief, it's kind of weird. It's a wonder that she's able to steal anything without much noise she's constantly making.
Yeah, and Stavron he's fairly gruff, but he seems good natured enough. Though very definitely kind of focused on finding Brannick, as if he's kind of maybe been sent here for that purpose or has come here of his own accord to find him, but doesn't really say much about why.
She agrees. Florinda agrees to kind of help look for them. She just right now she's tired of being at an end of a for the past few days, but she's not very fond of snow, so she's even more upset that she's actually stuck here at the moment because it's cold, even though she has fur.
So you all can head off to Frozen Far. We're entering through kind of the main entrance. You'll be greeted by Antinous, who kind of waves you all in and welcomes you and tries to see if there's anything you're looking to purchase, if you were interested in buying anything, what he could help you with. Oh, welcome, welcome.
Morning. We're
Are
looking for some friends of ours, actually. Man named Brennick. I heard he might have hired one of your associate services, and been traveling with a man named Luther as well.
I may have some folks who are out on an expedition now. What sort of friends are you that you're looking for them out here?
Well, Brennick, an old, call him a family friend.
Family friend. I grew up with Luther.
And Stavrin is very clearly, maybe not very clearly, but he's clearly not. He's holding something back.
Yeah, so I feel like I need a deception from Brannick, and I feel like Johann is a little bit more persuasion. Well, you're all in luck. We've, in some ways, they've returned. Um, come with me. And he'll kind of walk off towards like the western doors, like out into it's like a less heated part of the house. It's still like attached to the actual building, but it's kind of offset almost as if it were a barn. And there's definitely a drastic drop in temperature. Kind of one of those things where it gains some benefits, but it's clearly not like fully insulated. And you'll just see as you kind of like step into this back area, there's going to be a few people who are at this point probably getting up, but more slowly starting to move on with your day as you all have a little bit of decisions to be made. But you'll have like in this kind of cold storage, you'll see the body of Luther kind of set up on a sled as if he's still sleeping. Um, and I think actually you'd probably see a little bit of mycelial growth on his body at this point.
Before we, I guess it'd be like right before she sees the body floating, just asks, what kind of friends do y'all have that they will go out in this crazy snow? It's it's bloody cold. All this friend, I'm still growing icicles. Look at this.
Well, from what I hear, Brennick's not particularly known for his common sense. And I think at that point, Brennick, hearing his own name, would turn around and pay attention to that, to Stavrin and the others who have come in.
So on entering, on seeing Luther's body, Johann would kind of relax, and you would realize that his hand had been on his mace, um, and had been tensing for as if to fight. Um, he approaches the body and and looks into the face and fool, fool. But then, you see that he's almost crying, and he softens pretty quickly, and he's like, well, I shall perform the burial rituals, I suppose. Even he deserves that.
Lorinda kind of just kind of looks a little bit in shock because even though what she said wasn't meant to be uh insulting or anything, she kind of felt like what she said now was out of place after realizing what's happening or what has happened in front of her.
We don't have the best facilities to perform a burial. Can be expensive to procure wood, or we can always lay people to rest in the ice. There are many options. Not all of them are easy.
Ice or ocean takes their own. Now, this growth, it appears that he's already rotting, which I wouldn't expect in this cold weather. Have you seen this before? Uh, and Johann kind of examines whatever the myconid growth is or whatever.
You could do a medicine. I would say with that, on a little closer inspection, it's actually going to be a little bit more maybe not frightening, but definitely troublesome. Um with kind of a sea-bearing background, I think there's at least the dangers of recognizing like the living mycelium that myconids spread and how dangerous that can be to a ship, let alone to its crew. But I feel like on some level you are like almost in denial at recognizing what this is. Because I think with a 22, you're going to recognize that this is actually something taking over his body in death.
We should not tarry, and we may consider the extra cost of burning. I've seen this before, and it'll spread through a ship in no time at all. It's a form of the plague.
So Brannick kind of looking up and sort of he's kind of saw the growth. He hasn't had a chance to investigate it as closely yet, but seeing kind of Johann clearly concerned and seems like maybe he's recognized it. He'll Brannick will say if burning the body would be appropriate, I can help with that.
Well, it states yeah, we could use the clothing and his material that he has as kindle if we're not able to get any wood, of course.
Burning their body is certainly your choice if you would like. If the ocean is also something you would think about, I have a contact in Bryn Shander who needs guiding off to the sea of grinding ice. He's got some whale oil to pick up and needs some guards. If you would be willing, you could tackle two things.
Johann, perks up at that, and I'm familiar with sailing on that sea. I suppose he would, based on what he knows or the extent of this, of what he can see on Well, how many days dead is Luther? I mean, he's basically trying to figure out whether they have time to make it to Bryn Shander and get on a ship, or if they have to, or if it would be wisest to burn him today.
I think more than anything, you're going to recognize that it is there than that it is an immediate threat. But Jarthra will kind of come from the background. He he fell yesterday.
We may have time to get to Bryn Shander in the sea. If commending him to the sea would put him in the good graces of Valkyr, the god who I follow, and would be best. I think we have time, if that's agreeable to the rest of you.
Villix's asks for one what asks if we buried him at sea, would that cause the disease to spread through the waters? Through the oceans and rivers, would that cause an issue, or what would happen with that? She's a little worried about that.
And Stavrin would be, um, he would definitely be sympathetic to Johann's desire, and Brannick wouldn't look. Um, he would kind of hesitate, but then almost at like kind of like a sharp nod in his direction from Stavrin. Brannick would agree to, that they can, maybe they can do it as, deal with the body as Johann would like.
Johann doesn't want to. Well, okay. I guess this is what he says. The extent to which it could spread through the sea. I
We
think
lost
if we know him. Whoop, can y'all hear me? Check.
we lost you after into the sea.
Let's see. Into the sea. I don't know how much danger there is to bury him at sea, but I think that if we were to bundle him and to drop him into the whatever it's called, the frozen sea, there would be little risk, but I can't say that would be none.
Hmm. That concerns me a little because while yes, it may not be no risk, the fact that the possibility of the disease leaving from going from his body into the oceans and spreading, that's that's a terrible thought. We, especially if for those thinking about those that might not be able to protect against it, or who knows what would happen. I I feel for your loss, but it may be best for us to burn the body along with the disease that along with the plague that kills it.
Brannick might, at this point, he would speak up and say, I've always heard that the dose makes the poison, and given the size of the ocean, perhaps whatever is affecting your fallen friend here would be dispersed relatively harmlessly. Though, of course, I can't say there's no risk. As my companion here, and he would motioning to Felixus, suggests. And I think like Stavrin would at this point, he would like kind of maybe put a hand kind of heavily on Johan's shoulder and just he would say like, do what you think is best.
He was like a younger brother to me, but he was responsible for the death of my brother. I would have him put to rest at sea if we cannot bring his body back to the lands where he grew, which is beyond our capability. But that sits ill with you. Then I can spare a few coin for wood. But tell me, actually, so he addressed this to Brannick. But he was your shipmate. How is it that he fell, and how is it that he fell?
So you don't necessarily have to recant the whole story, but on some level, maybe Jarthro will kind of step forward. They were trying to treat with the thieves who have beset our village. Some dwarves.
So when Johann hears the story and discovers that it was death by violence, his eyes narrow, and he um, hmm, well, is there a burden of vengeance here? I owe him that much if he was killed unjustly.
We did attempt to talk to them peacefully, but it doesn't look like they wanted a peaceful talk. They were very adamant about coming here to kill us all, apparently. And at some point, we were attacked by these weird, I want to say, zombie plant-like creatures that were unaffected by any holy magic or any blessings that would normally affect the undead. It's like I'm not sure how to explain what it was that we fought.
Hmm. It sounds like there's unfinished business here then. No, we can't hear
We
you,
cannot
Justin.
right
Or at
now.
least I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
kind of faint. Say one more thing. I feel like we caught the end.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
My
I don't know
bad.
for
I
some
should have
reason.
said that.
Some reason my Discord setting, voice setting, redefaulted, so it wasn't kept picking up my mic. So, sorry
I
about
should have
that.
said that because Larry said something to you, and then there was a long silence, and that's when I stepped in as Jarthra, and I didn't even think to say "Hey, Justin, if you're talking right now, we can't hear you."
Okay, yeah. So essentially, yeah, Brannick was essentially going to kind of relay the story. He was probably going to leave out like the dragon stuff, but and then when Johann had mentioned kind of getting vengeance, Brannick would have kind of agreed that he would like to see the dwarves pay for what they had done, but he would also caution that they seem to be, um, well fortified, and perhaps it would be better to maybe take up this idea of um, meeting up with this person in Bryn Shander and dealing with the uh, disposition of Luther's body, and then uh, perhaps revisiting. But he's definitely also interested in eventually getting back at these dwarves.
At this point, I know for Linda, um, while listening, she does state she steps forward and says, "Hey, I technically am a professional at getting into very difficult places at times. If there's a place that you are unable to get into that you may need help with, I can definitely assist with that." And Felix just kind of looks at her and it's like surprised to see her friend here, and a little bit, but she has a weird, little bit of annoyed expression, but at the same time happy because she knows what kind of person her friend is. If anyone is speaking, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I wasn't saying anything. Johann, just to kind of play it out, kind of turned on the dime, and the instant that revenge or that sort of thing uh, raised his head, he nodded along and was like, "Yep, I'm there. I grew up with this guy, so even though I was probably going to kill him, uh, if revenge is involved, then so be it. That's just the how you do it." Um, so I'm open either way.
Well, I imagine they'd be rather ready for us if we went after them right away again. Um, Perhaps a short diversion to deal with this uh, deal with Luther's body in this escort mission would be wise. Don't imagine those dwarves will be going anywhere. They seem to be digging in to stay.
Agreed. Right now, it might be best for us to do this while the doors are occupied. They may actually be a little on edge as to what we were doing up there, so they may actually be, as you said, maybe refortifying right now. So we can take the time to handle do this escort mission and stock up on anything we may need and get any additional. We may also find additional information in regards to what these doors are doing. Because as it stands right now, we have little to no information in regards to other than what we already know, and that's not very much right now either.
Yeah, it's an excellent point, Felixus. So, what do you think, Johan, to Bryn Shander?
To Bryn Shander, then. Um, it sounds like at the very least you've hurt the dwarves' capability their offensive capability with the destroying of this ogre and their mushroom people, even though it sounds like the mushroom people were defensive, but it sounds like they may have depended upon that ogre and the sled to steal from the town. And so therefore, perhaps the town will be safe until we can return.
Yeah, so when we get back here, we can perhaps we can see what has transpired in our absence. If the dwarves are still causing the same trouble, or um, as you say, the loss of that ogre will uh, delay whatever plans they have for a bit.
So if that's decided, Johann starts kind of casting about for the means to create a what do you call it, a sledge, just something to drag Johann's body on.
Technically, we've already got him on one.
Great.
Yeah, we kind of improvised one from the ruins of the cart that the dwarves had. That's how we got him back to Caer Konig. So I feel like we could use that as well to bring him along to Bryn Shander. Maybe get like a tarpaulin or something just to kind of cover the body while we're traveling.
Yeah, I think from just like his own bedding and whatnot, you could easily have done that.
Oh yeah, good point.
Well, if that sounds like the right path for you, my friend Helka, you'll find her within Bryn Shander. She's often going to be at the actual tavern. It shouldn't be too difficult to locate her. She's a sea captain. I feel like you might find yourself gravitated towards her. But otherwise, you may also find her just with the smithy. But I think the safest thing to say is look to where the ale is flowing and ask around. I believe it will be easy enough to find her. And then he'll again kind of share with you. Name is Helka Jägerrath. Some of you might know her as the Hunter's Wrath. And he'll kind of just give like a very basic description of just like this taller humanoid, dark like jet black hair, and while she's almost definitely going to be bundled up in actual clothing for the cold, she's also kind of constantly clad in like jingly bells and all kinds of different trinkets, things like collections of bones from different creatures she's slain, but very kind of like eclectic and loud person who you won't go far without recognizing.
Sounds like
Johann
you should
laughs. I
be.
know the type.
Sounds like you should be easy enough to find.
Collection of
Without
bones.
hesitation. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's it. That she just Felix is just interested in the collection of bones that she has.
Um, well, if there's not an answer to that, Johann sort of without hesitation, takes the handles of the sledge and, you know, the day's young, there's work to be done. And
This
the
is
bard sings something about bravely running away.
and Stavron would move to help Johan with carrying the or directing the sledge. While also kind of he seems to keep a careful eye on Brannick as well, but
So yeah, I think Jethra is going to kind of take a last moment with Brannick and with Felixus to just travel safe, friends. I'm sorry for how things have turned out, but thank you very much for trying as you would. Travel safe.
thank you. And imagine it could have been much worse if you hadn't been guiding us. So thank you as well. And perhaps if we return, we can try again, as it were.
Yes, thank you. And apologies for not being able to fully deal with the situation immediately.
Well, you all know where they are. I don't know if you'll summon me for my services again, but if you do come back and you need me, hopefully I will not be far.
Very good. Thank you again.
So, as you all head out, leaving Caer Konig behind you, with thoughts of searching for Helka Yigarath, you can step off into the cold, and I think let me get a survival from Johan. So as you all kind of push out into the cold of the night, or cold of the day, pretty simple travels ahead of you as you follow what is a relatively set out path between Caer Konig and Caer Dinaval. The wind is harsh for one of the first times it is at your back, and the travel is at least easier at present. And you all can make a pretty seamless travel through the Caer Dinaval, still early in the day. You could push to Bryn Shander without any issues. You'll have a good day's travel and get in late at night. If you have any issues, you might find yourselves like lost in the deepest, darkest of the night. But the difference of that being that you don't have the light of the actual. Damn, I can't think of the word. Aurora. What kind of thoughts do you all have traveling forward?
I think Brannick would suggest maybe they try to push on through and reach Bryn Shander. Also given that they think they have some time with this, whatever this stuff is covering Luther, but perhaps don't want to risk any more delays than are necessary. So he would suggest trying to push on and maybe try and get to Bryn Shander by by late tonight, I guess.
Johann would nod approvingly at the idea of let's risk a little to just keep going. The bar would maybe look a little hesitant at it, but he'd simply strike up a different chord of drama and follow along.
So let me get another survival from you. This one can be an advantage. So as you all are walking off into the south, making your way to the east way, everything's still going rather well, having pretty good travel. The path itself is still easy enough to keep track of. You have glimpses at times of Lake Dinisher off to the east of yourselves, but most of your time is still spent effectively just trying to keep your heads down, keep walking forward, keeping a nice straight line, and things go pretty well for a while. You eventually will make your way to the east way, where you know that you have to turn off to the west and start heading off towards Bryn Shander. Still not in view, but at the actual crossing, you have a pretty good idea, I guess, really Brannock, of Goodmead's location, like pretty close to you, just kind of just beyond view out to the south. And you can start to wander off to the west. This path is a little bit more solid and a little bit more kind of beat in, but it's much more of like a kind of permafrost with just a clear open tundra up to the north of you where the winds are just speeding up. And around this point where the aurora is at its weakest and starting to give way to the cold darkness of night, you all are going to see a very clear beacon of light off to the north of you. And it is just a bright white light that none of you have seen in the north. And as this catches your eye, you're just going to hear a soft, feminine voice on the wind. This is the doom that awaits you all. This is the fate of any who dare to claim what is mine. Behold, the final light.
Village is like bloody cold. This is trying to make me hallucinate or hear things on the freaking winds. Why?
You heard that too.
Oh
I
dear
think
God,
we all
please go ahead.
I think we all heard the voice of the Frost Maiden.
Please tell me you're kidding.
I don't like the reference to a final light. That can't imagine that's a good finality. But perhaps we should hurry along.
How far away is the light? I mean, is it yeah, how far away is the light if we can tell, and is it moving at all?
Let me get a perception from you all. Velixis, let me get a perception from you. So looking off into the distance, the light, when you first notice it, when you first hear the voice, is a ways off. It seems uncannily far for you to be able to see. It's further than most of what you've been able to see in the same weather, which has kind of an eerie feel to it. And as you all move on towards Bryn Shander, it seems to be following you.
You can just kind of hear Alexis retainer and back going, I'm not ready to go into the light yet. I don't want it following me. I'm not ready to go yet.
So Stavrin would kind of Brannick would be kind of focused on trying to get to town. At one point, Stavrin would kind of like turn back towards the light, and he would kind of like speak out into the wind, like, "We want nothing of you. Just leave us alone." At which point, Brannick would probably try and like tell him to like stop doing that, but then kind of get him um, back towards the sledge.
I think Torleth would put away his lute and maybe try to give a hand to move the sledge along a little faster. Johann mutters something about storms a brewing and leans in a little heavier to keep the sledge moving.
And Brannick would maybe speaking to that. It's like, you think she means claiming what is hers?
This land?
Why is she claiming this is hers?
So while you all are pushing forward here, let me get Constitution saves from you.
Do you want them for our sidekicks as well?
Nope. So, as you all continue pushing forward here, this creature in this light from behind you is getting closer and brighter. And off in the distance, you see the first sign of Bryn Shander. The creature seems to be moving faster than you, or rather, even this light seems to be moving faster than you. And it seems to be moving on a converging course with you, like it's at the same kind of position off away from you, and it's holding that same position as you all push forward and forward. You're going to continue to move forward?
We may not make this port before the storm strikes, but I will not leave this body behind. I owe him that. But you go ahead if you fear this too much. But Johann does redouble his effort again to pull the sledge.
So let me get another round of Constitution saves if everybody's following Johann's lead to continue moving on towards Bryn Shander. So closing in closer to the city. Feeling a little positive here as you all keep a little bit of distance beyond yourselves and this creature. Getting a little bit closer, you're seeing more and more signs that this seems to be a little bit of a humanoid. And you can continue on, or you can stop to fight it. But at present, it looks like you've got a better chance at making Bryn Shander than you did before.
What say you, shipmates?
I'd say we try and make it.
Definitely push forward. Definitely push forward.
Let me get a round of wisdom saving throws. So you all are starting to come to kind of like the foothill of this tall city that sits on almost a small little mountain peak to itself, rounded by a tall wall that kind of surrounds it almost halfway up this area. You're maybe a half mile out from Bryn Shander here. The creature is closing in closer and closer, but still seems to be off at a distance. At this point, you have a good chance of making it into Bryn Shander. Still moving forward?
Can we see whether the gates are still open or about like how late is it at night?
It's into the darkness of the night. The gates are closed right now.
Yeah, Brannick's vote still for trying to get there and maybe have somebody run ahead to try to get the gates, call for the guards to open the gates.
Torleth instantly starts running ahead.
You're already thinking what I was thinking. The last one was going to be a persuasion check, so let me get a round of persuasion checks from the three of you. Oh, that's maybe the one that I win. So right now you all are 2-2. As you get to the gates, they are closed, held fast. This creature is within a few hundred feet of you, probably realistically about 60 feet actually. Um, and is just a beacon of white light shining from where a face should be inside of like cold weather clothing. Its flesh seems to just be shining like a star in the night sky, and it's just stalwart walking towards you. And as you all get up to the gate and start to call for aid, it seems like there's no answer from within. Perhaps they're frozen in fear. Perhaps they've abandoned their posts. But right now, you all have a few moments to react. You can try again to make your way inside, or you can turn and fight.
Is Brannick able to? Does Brannick have any idea about what sort of creature this might be? Has he heard of anything similar before? Now that it's kind of a bit closer and they can make out a little more detail.
Let me have you make an intelligence check. History, if you've got history. Yeah, you've got history, so add your proficiency to that. So what is that, a 15? Still plus 2.
History is +6, so it would just be +2 to that, so 14.
Yeah. You've heard of some creatures that upon dying alone in the cold of the tundra rise to serve their queen. You've probably heard the name associated with somebody who you've kind of always held close, some of their exploits. You're relatively sure you've read a little story about a dark elf who once fought something. You're trying to recall what they called it, what it was, but it just seemed almost insignificant to the recognition that this is a creature of the winter. This is a champion of Arl.
So Brannick will kind of, as he's recalling this, he will be like, try again, get those gates open. And he would kind of shout it again, trying to get any guards' attention if he can.
Sound like what everybody's doing?
Johann casts aid on Brannick and Alexis and himself.
Belikta kinda she yells for Florinda to see to ask her if she can if she's able to make her way to the, like, real quick though, is it with the gates, is there like a, are you able to see over it, and if you were to climb to the top of it, would you be able to get to the other side of the gate?
You as a kobold, 100% that would look like an insurmountable wall. You need to make a decision right now. You don't have time to think. Choice. What do you do?
Oh, I'm asking Florinda to see if she could run ahead to try and get over the wall and open the gate herself from the other side, since she's able,
All right.
since that is her
So,
specialty.
Brannick, persuasion check from you. Johann's doing nothing, and Rashad, you can make a performance check.
Johann's casting aid, so everyone gets.
No, you're
5.
casting aid, but you're not helping in the
Oh yeah,
actual
yeah,
situation
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
You chose a different path, which is okay.
Got it.
So as you yell inside, and as Florinda is kind of like leaping up the wall of the city, you're going to start to hear as the weight from within is released. The gates are going to start to open, and you're going to see about 6 guards inside with their spears kind of held out towards you all, but like a gap in between them. Quickly, quickly, we're shutting the gate already. And you start to see as the gate is closing almost as fast as it started to open. Let me get dexterity checks from all of you.
Oh God.
Johann falls on his ass.
Wait, is that it? I thought I hit my dex. It says dex, but I guess it's acrobatic.
Yeah, dex would just be at the top. Realistically, unless you have proficiency in acrobatics, I feel like your dex is 3. Yeah, that's just a dex save. It's the same, or a dex check rather. So when Brannick and Johann go to move inside, the gates are closing in. They're going to start to pin into you two. And each of you are going to take 7 bludgeoning damage. And I need a dexterity saving throw from Johann and Brannick. This is a much higher DC.
It's 3 ones in a row. Jeez.
Yikes.
So as they close the gate back behind you, the two of you are left outside. Florinda is still on top of this place, but this creature is just beyond the two of you, and you are in blinding white light as this creature is approaching the gate. And I think this is all going to be within initiative order. So let me get an initiative from y'all. I bet I don't need to drop that. We're not going to do tokens.
From me as well, or just them two?
Yeah, you as well. Otherwise, you can't help them.
And sorry, I forgot to mention, if I feel like Brannick would have cast Mage Armor when they headed out of Caer Konig on their way to Bryn Shander.
That's perfectly fine.
And I do apologize. This is for Felix to help, or for Florinda.
Just roll an initiative with Felixus. Alrighty, so Felixus, you are inside of the gates as you see Florinda is on top of the gates, and your two friends just got like shut outside of the gates as they close back inside. What are you doing?
I tried to she tried to look for the latch that opened the gate, and she tries to quickly reopen the gate again, to try to let them inside.
Make a persuasion check at disadvantage. one of the guards is just going to reach for your hand. I can't let you do that. That creature cannot be allowed inside of this place. What would Florinda be doing from atop the battlement?
Right now, she's not sure what to do. What does if she's looking at from the top? What does she see? Brennick and them down there, or is all she's seeing just the bright light?
I mean, it would be pretty blinding, regardless, for anybody at this point in the utter darkness to see the light. But you can do a perception check. You can't quite tell who it is, but you can see that there's two of the people from your group still outside. You can drop a rope down to them, but at this point you cannot help them. That's probably about the most you could do.
Okay, then yeah, she just yells to see if they can hear for them that she's gonna drop a rope, and she drops a rope down for them, and hopes that they'll grab onto it.
Brannock, what are you doing as you see this creature is approaching you from behind, and you hear of a rope from up above as the gates close down in front of you?
So, as how close has this creature now come? Essentially, Brennick is thinking if he can, he would want to, without getting too far away from the gate, move forward and try to um, blast it with some burning hands.
You could close the distance and use burning hands on it.
Okay, so he's going to do that. He's going to cast it at second level. Maybe DC 14 Dex save. And as he's doing this, he'd be shouting to Johan to start up the rope, trying to essentially buy some time.
So the creature just walks straight forward through the flame. It doesn't have any effort to avoid it. It's just bright white light in your face, and it's walking straight through it.
Okay, so if he had any movement left, he would try to retreat back towards the gate, but that's pretty much all he can do.
You can probably get back to pretty much at the gate.
Okay. And then Stavrin, who's on the other side, he made it inside, I'm assuming, right?
For what it's worth, I'd say you all stuck together. So I would say it's realistically, I think it's actually, I should have said for Florinda that there were four of you. I think it makes more sense that you guys are stuck out there with your retinue.
Okay. So in that case, Stavrin would step in front of Brannick and he would like shout to him to get up the, try to get up the rope. And I think he would, given what he's here for, he would sort of move forward and try to swing at this thing with his sword.
Go for it. A solid strike into it.
And then he would try to keep himself interposed essentially between, not that he can really do it, but between himself and the others and this creature. So I think he'll stand his ground.
And then it's going to go to Johan.
Is the creature within 30 feet?
It is indeed.
In what is perhaps a signature mistake for clerics played by Larry, Johann channels divinity and attempts to turn undead.
I believe you will find that there is a CR limit to what you can do there. What's the CR limit right now on what you can turn?
I don't see that in the D&D Beyond description. It gets a saving throw. It gets a wisdom saving throw, DC 14. Yeah, I don't see a CR limit here.
Yeah, I think the CR is for the destroy undead part.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm just looking at the player's handbook now.
That's going to be the one. You're just going to see as the light is going to turn and the creature is going to start to walk off. Assuming nobody makes the mistake of attacking it.
Yeah, I think seeing that this seems to have worked, in yeah, Brannick's he's focused on maybe trying to climb that rope and get inside, and I think Stavern would still keep himself kind of interposed, but he wouldn't. He would be kind of backing away, not attacking it as it turned.
So within the next few minutes, you all are, I guess, really the next few moments, you all are able to climb your way into Bryn Shander, where the guards are kind of like in a little bit of a panic. They don't know exactly what to do or what to think of how you've gotten in. Uh, but I, I'm we're sorry. We had no choice. We can't let such things into the city. We're so sorry.
Landlubbers. And Torlif meanwhile starts like, "What's your name? What's your name?" and like trying to remember every detail, and so that he can weave it into a song eventually.
And Brannick is he's out of breath. He's kind of wincing, holding his side from where he kind of got slammed in between the gates, and he knows it's his own fault that he didn't get inside quick enough. But he's still a little peeved, I guess. And Stavron just looks like upset at Brannick, like kind of like, "What the hell were you thinking?" Running towards that thing. But Brannick he'll nod. He doesn't trust himself to speak, so he's gonna keep quiet. And Stavron will at the guard's remarks, he'll just nod and just say, "No, we got inside. That's the important thing."
Valix is kind of the guard that grabbed her arm if he's still holding her armor, she kind of like grabs him by like the collar of his armor or whatnot, or whatever he's wearing, and she looks him in the eyes and she asks what. She asks with a serious tone, "What was that?"
They've wandered the wastes for years. It's something that Oral has brought to punish us.
This is something that Aura has brought to punish us. For what?
Every day that we live in her land, we are an affront to her. The gods need any reason beyond that they feel?
Anyone ever managed to kill one of those things?
If not, I'm about to find out how.
I don't think anyone would stay long enough to find out. You were quite brave to turn as you did.
Brave
Well,
or
perhaps if you had left the gate open.
brave or stupid? One or the other.
We opened the gate for you. That was more than you deserved.
Well, we're all inside now. Let's let bygones be bygones. I could use a drink. For that.
The village just releases her grip on her grip from the guard and just kind of just walks away from him.
You'll find most of our taverns have run dry, but Scrumsex over at the North Look has among some of the last ale to flow. He's able to purchase at the premiums that good mead charges.
Well, if that's where the ale is, I imagine that's where we'll find Helka.
Johann nods and picks up the sledge and says nothing more to the guards and starts trudging in the direction of the North Look.
Are you taking your friend to the house of the Morning Lord? Are they ill?
They're dead.
We're hoping to give him a worthy send off.
The Morning Lord is Luthander, is it?
To some.
More to the party than to anyone else. He says, "That was the god to whom Luther dedicated himself. Perhaps that would be the best way to commend his body."
You'll find Copper Nabernacle is the priest at the house of the Morning Lord who serves Lathander.
Copper Nabernacle, you say?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Yeah, Luther or Johann asks for directions, but that seems like a good place to lay Luther to rest.
They'll kind of guide you around the actual like city, like kind of giving you a few like ways to get there, but basically telling you like if you keep the within sight of the wall, you'll eventually see the large chapel and like the whole kind of facility that is the house of the Morning Lord. And it's basically just like about 10 minutes walk from where you all are at that present point.
Yeah, Brannick and Stavrin will agree with Johann. Suggest Brannick more because he knows that he knew Luther and he had probably seen his holy symbol, so um, he would agree with Johann's idea of heading there first.
So while you all are heading to the house of the Morning Lord, let's take a break here and come back in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'm back.
How do you spell archaeology?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I was trying to see how to spell archaeologist or archaeology.
Oh yeah, I think it's like Archaeology. There's an extra A in there that always trips me up.
I'm back.
Welcome back. I thought Brannick and Johann might be done for after those terrible deck saves.
Oh, I thought that. I was like, all right, here we go. Yeah, and if the guards were telling the truth, that even with 10 of them, they dared not face this thing, it would have been. It sounds like it was a pretty tough challenge.
Yeah, I was thinking Stavrin, given kind of he's here to keep an eye on Brannick, he'd be essentially be ready to sacrifice himself to see if hopefully they could get inside, but Brannick would be shaken after seeing the thing just kind of walking through is essentially the best spell he's got. So
Yeah, Johann would, since Brannick was like, put himself in harm's way and, didn't go up the rope, Johann would, um, be slapping him on the shoulder and calling him shipmate, those sorts of things.
yeah. Meanwhile, Stavrin be berating him for being an idiot. But
Meanwhile, Torleth would be like, okay, like, how about this? How about this version of the song? In which the creature gets taller and mightier and more terrifying in every moment.
I like the whole visual of that, essentially kind of like a chase scene, and then we get to the gates, he managed to persuade them to get them open, but then it's like, we're still just unable to get inside. I kind of like the whole visual of that counter.
Like they opened the gate and immediately closed it. Like, what in the world, man?
It's like I guess like they essentially like they barricaded it and then um yeah. I mean, at least we were able to persuade them to even open it at all, because otherwise we would have been stuck out there. So
Yeah, it felt TPK-ish.
That's not that bad. I had imagined them as like having like cut the counterweight to get the doors to. I feel like that's not how it works. So to get them to close faster, but that was the biggest reason why I was like, yeah, those doors can't open again. To regular guards, yeah, that thing could clear guards. To your party with 3 of you at level 4, probably a really, really good fight. Potentially be deadly, but with the sidekicks, that creature doesn't stand a chance.
Johan was ready to go, man.
And I think that's one of those kind of like classic things, like in general, things are probably not just automatically death. You usually have a chance. And it's just kind of a question of like how deadly is it? But there is a certain level of like when you guys get into a fight, you might want to still assess like, oh, yep, we should probably run from this.
yeah, I think especially after you kind of like describe the thing, just kind of like walking through Brannick's fire, at least for him, that would be like, okay, that's time to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it took the full damage. You guys were definitely doing good damage to it for a single round, but that's kind of like the difference is you don't necessarily see what it really means until you actually stick around to find out, like, how much did we throw at it to just get to half? So I feel like I've heard everyone's voices.
Yeah, I heard Rashad before. I don't know if he's still.
Yeah, I'm here. I was waiting on everybody else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my bad. That was definitely me checking to see for like a final check-in, like, yep, we're back. So we are effectively having you all heading towards the House of the Morning Lord, inside of Bryn Shander. You've gotten away from the lights of Oral and made it into the town. While you all make your way there, it's a short while, not really difficult to find. After a few minutes, you'll probably be able to see like the actual like kind of towering heights of this. Even though it's like down towards the wall, the actual like building itself is almost as high as like the rest of this kind of hilltop city kind of sits, as this is one of the tallest buildings in Bryn Shander. But as you all kind of make your way over there, you can go up to the doors and try to knock for someone's attention within.
Indeed, that's what Johan does.
So when the doors open, you'll see a human inside, and she kind of looks over this group and sees the beer behind you. Quickly, quickly, into the chapel. All are welcome into Amantor's grace. How may I be of service?
We have the body of a cleric of Luthander, and we were told to seek out Priest Nobernacle to commend him to the.
Usurpers. Copper, get your ass down here. And the woman's gonna just walk away. after about 3 or 4 minutes, you're gonna start to hear some like clunking around upstairs, and eventually you'll see as a little person starts to like run down the stairs, and the person's like just kind of like almost like tripping and falling as they're kind of like getting some of their warmer clothing on, but more or less getting everything together. You see as this person kind of like shows up and looking over everybody for a few moments. See, this person's like about 3 feet tall, very clearly not a human, though they have a lot of humanoid characteristics. And kind of look over. Oh, you're a priest of the Thunder. How did how did this happen?
He fell in battle to some creatures. Here, you may recognize this disease of the dead. And Luther, unwraps, or Luther, Johann unwraps Luther enough to sort of point out the areas that have infection or the growth or whatever.
This is most curious. I've come across some creatures like this in the past. I think if you, my friend Macredius, he might know more about them. Do you could search him out? I could use some word of how he's doing. He might know more about what these things are.
And this Macredius, is he here in Bryn Shander?
He's doing some research. Important things. Creating a device. Do you follow oral?
Yeah, I think Johann would actually spit on the floor and say, "I follow Valkyr."
It's a good and bad reaction. Macredius is. He's had to hide himself off in the north. It's. He's doing some research. And Copper's just gonna kind of like point towards the sky. He's hoping to end the rhyme. I was supposed to send some goods to him. I haven't heard back from the porter nor of Macredius. He's quite knowledgeable. Could use some help. I can take care of your friend. Yes, I think we could give him a pyre to lay him to rest to prevent this from taking his body.
Johann nods. That might be best, but we can't find your friend without some more information on where it is to find him.
Yes. Just how far north are we talking?
Um, Come with come with me. I'll we should sit. Uh and he'll kind of take you all back to like the little spiral stair that leads up to the little attic that Copper stays in. And you'll just see, while there's certainly some like emblems of Lathander, most of this place is very clearly different like creations. A lot of them are kind of toys, very simple things. But he'll kind of like shove a bunch of shit out of the way to kind of make space and just have like avalanches of just metallic toys and trinkets just flying all around as he makes space for some of you to sit. But he kind of looks around, and you see after a while he kind of like shakes his head, like looking around all the shit. He's like kind of blind to the fact that he's a hoarder, but also recognizes that there's no way your entire party is sitting inside of his bedroom. Um, and he'll take some time looking around for a map, and he'll eventually, well, the difficult thing about the cabin is it moves.
What do you mean it moves?
Oh, well, when I last saw Copper, I visited him in the woods outside of Lonely Wood. When he spoke to me last, he told me to send the goods uh, to the other side of the Shenangan River, to kind of the northwest of Lonely Wood, beyond Maer Dualden. He was to the north. I fear you won't ever find it in the same place twice.
In this area was where you were to send the goods. I mean, Johann asked questioningly.
Yeah, effectively, like once he like pulls out a piece of paper, he kind of describes like his understanding was like location 1 and then location 2.
Oh, okay.
I fear that you may be searching a rather broad area for the hopes of finding where the cabin is. It's the black cabin is an ancient relic to itself, and Macredius is only making use of it.
Is there something in particular he's searching for up there?
I I can I trust you? And I need I feel like this would be a persuasion from Brannick. And also, when he says that, he is straight up staring at you as well. I think the black cabin is a relic from the Netheril. I believe he's looking for one of their cities crashed into the Red Glacier. And he thinks it will lead him to ending the rhyme.
So would Brannick recognize these references to Netheril?
You can make a history check with advantage. Oh shit, my bad. He would have actually been looking kind of towards both of the wizards. I always forget Velixis is as well. So Velixis, make a history check for it. Yours would not be with advantage. In particular, Brannick, part of yours is the Arcane Brotherhood. Yeah, so I think for each of you, the mention of the Netheril will certainly bring up thoughts of ancient power. I think, Brannick, you'll have a far more solid understanding that these were human wizards at their peak of both power as well as folly. And that they gained so much power that they nearly destroyed the weave. Not just the land, but much of the north was reshaped when the cities, the floating cities of the Netheril fell. And if this person is researching in a place that's even remotely connected to them, that is something both the Arcane Brotherhood as well as any wizard would be intrigued by.
Yeah. So upon hearing that and knowing what he does about Netheril, Brannick would definitely be kind of you'd definitely be able to see kind of visibly his interest peaked, and he would probably be trying to hide kind of just how almost like a greedy glint would come into his eye at the um like learning this, but he would be trying to maybe kind of he would be trying to hide it, like just how kind of excited he is at this idea.
Steve, Alexis is the opposite. She's not hiding it. Um, you can wholeheartedly see the smile on her face. She is excited. You can tell she is excited.
And did before your contact with the Macredius was cut off, did he mention having found anything?
The last thing that I saw was a very understanding that he had found the cabin. I wasn't keen to venture into such a dark place, and I could tell my friend was not as open to share it with me as when he first invited me. I think dark powers still linger at that place. And I worry that's why my contact with Macredius has ended or been cut.
perhaps some in exchange for your seeing to seeing to our friends passing. Perhaps we could see if we could find this McCready for you. And Brannick would be kind of, um, he'd be saying this kind of like trying to show like trying to get across the idea that he wants to try and, like he said, find McCready, but he's probably very clearly more interested in maybe finding what McCready's found, or the the idea of this, like these Netherese ruins or relics. It would be kind of clearly his main impetus for suggesting this.
That is would be incredibly kind of you to search for my friend. I hope it is something that you will not have difficulty on. If you wait for another few days, I can prepare some more provisions to send up with you to deliver to Macretus. Otherwise, if you have pressing business elsewhere, perhaps just word would be great enough.
I wouldn't. If, I wouldn't mind waiting. To help him out. It's the least we can do. Plus, if y'all don't mind, I would like to take a look at some of the shops around the area.
Yeah, and depending on how long um this would take to set up the provisions, perhaps we could go speak to Helka. Maybe that we don't have enough time to do um you know do the mission for her, but if we are going to be waiting, we could at least maybe try and find her and speak to her, and just see what the deal is there. But Brannick would definitely be he's raring to go up north.
But let's just forgot about the other mission.
Oh yeah, no, I can't hear you, Larry.
We have no Larry. Are you there, Larry?
Yeah, your mic isn't lighting up. So if you're like pressing push, maybe I don't know if you have to reset push to talk, or um
It's like the day of Discord just resetting your push to talk.
yeah, I mean for me it went from my microphone to default for no apparent reason. That's why I couldn't maybe check the voice video settings, see if it did that to you too.
Do you want to try restarting your computer real quick?
All right, I might just step away for 2 minutes while he's doing that. Be right back.
100%.
Check, check.
That sounds good.
Yeah, Johann grumbles something about dawdling about in cities, but doesn't really have any objection to staying if that's what people want to do.
We may not have Justin right now. I'm not sure if Rashad stepped away.
Nope, I'm still here.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm back.
Excellent. So yeah, you all are presenting with this. I would say as Copper kind of like prepares to create a beer for Luther, he'll more or less kind of, where might I be able to find you when I prepare the supplies? Would you like to take his ashes with you? Is there anywhere you would like to lay him to rest?
Brannick would kind of look to Johann and kind of defer to him on this question.
His devotion to his god is his business. Spread him on the wind for all I care.
But we'll most likely be staying at the what was it, the North Look, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll search for you as soon as I prepare everything, and hopefully I still find you. Thank you all very kindly.
If you have an idea of how long these preparations will take, perhaps we could also check in again in a few days.
I will just have to head around town and pick up a few things, and I was going to gather them all together. It shouldn't take me too long. Um, uh, I could possibly have everything prepared in the evening tomorrow. Most definitely by the 6th.
Sounds fine to me. Tell me this was anyone else aware of what Critias was looking for up north? Anyone who might have been interested in his research?
I don't believe so. We've kept our own correspondence to ourselves. I don't believe anyone else should be interested in such things.
Would it be possible to take a look at any of these notes that might be around? Or is what correspondence do
I
you have?
don't have any of his notes.
So you see, like, kind of like a brief look of kind of like disappointment across Brannick's face, but he'll try to kind of not let it show for too long, kind of wipe it away, and then he'll nod and kind of very well, just thought I would ask. But He'll kind of look to the others and unless you've other questions, I suppose we can head to the inn.
I do have a question. Do you have any bookstores here? And do y'all sell any jewelry around here anywhere?
There are some scribes, but they usually are preparing books by order. You can certainly search them out if you are in need. And the jewelry, I think you might just be limited to tourmaline for a jeweler. Otherwise, you might look towards. We have a wizard who might just have gems if you're looking for gems.
Where would the wizard be at? And the jewelry doesn't have to be anything fancy. So I could definitely use all three locations. So I can go take a look around at those places.
Tourmaline is up towards Lonely Wood if you were heading that way to search for the Black Canyon. You'll pass through that area.
Okay, so I guess I'll probably have to check that at a later time when we pass through. I'm gonna try to leave the area.
Yes, it's possible we could stop there as well, so perhaps we could it would make sense to spend a bit of time there on our way north.
Ooh, I like that. So the jeweler, you said the wizard is in Tamerlane, and I had the book, the scribes here in town.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like maybe the scribes are almost more like copyists, like they get requests to um, like copies, specific make copies of books, I guess, or rather than like selling them to the public, I guess. But
Yeah, what are you looking for book-wise?
Honestly, I'm just looking to see if they have if they are scribes that do current requests. I want to see if they may either have some older books that they're not some old some old spell books that they may be willing to part with, or even any even a scroll or two that they no longer need.
Like, this is pre-printing press, so if you're looking for a book right now, even if it were somebody's like shit stain of a book, it's going to be like 300-400 gold. Like, I can send you to some scribes, but like bookstores, this is a world like before bookstores. Like, Candle Keep is way down in the south, and that place's entire existence is mystical because it's filled with books.
Ah, okay.
But like, if you're looking for scrolls, that's where the wizard. I'm still just looking for the name of the wizard I created for Bryn Shander, which I currently just can't find. All right, so the wizard Akalos is kind of like almost directly southwest of where you all are. If you search out the wizard Akalos, you will surely No, his tower, for it will be the only thing not covered in snow that you will see in that area.
Okay. Thank you. I definitely will go look for him as soon as I can. Uh, does everybody want to head? Is everybody trying to head to the inn, or did y'all have anything else?
I imagine we'll have time perhaps tomorrow morning if we want to check out this Agalos. I don't imagine he may not be too pleased being uh, disturbed this late at night.
I guess you're right. I guess I'll wait till the morning.
Yes, I'm happy to. I wouldn't mind meeting this fellow myself. Happy to go with you tomorrow.
Certainly. I say we go look for him like at first light or whatever light comes up.
And then Copper can direct you to the Guardians of the Noble Stone, which will be the scribes, and they're just to the south of him.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably check with them in the morning too, because if it's late, they may be asleep as well, unless they're up working late. But you know, then again, it might be best to just wait till the morning, like Brendan said.
Yes, I imagine we'll have most of the day tomorrow, and then perhaps by evenfall we return to the Northlook in case Copper here has his provisions prepared.
I hope I'll be ready for you tomorrow, and we can get you to Macredius, and hopefully everything will work out.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
So you all can head off from the House of the Morning Lord and kind of make your way through the streets um, in a pretty similar fashion. As long as you keep the actual wall within view, you will eventually find yourselves at the North Gate, and the North Look overlooks the North Gate, where you all can head on inside.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was just, Johann would indeed go in. He'd look around, looking for Helka, looking for a seafaring type. He would pride himself on being able to pick out a decent uh, seafarer from among this crowd of landlubbers, after all.
Make a perception check. Walk into this tavern. There's like two large rooms ahead of you. The barkeep is kind of directly ahead, and as you all kind of like bust in, and Johann's like surveying the area, it won't be long before you hear from across the actual tavern the yell of the barkeep. Ho ho! Some adventurers have come to the Northlook. Welcome, friends. Come enjoy an ale. My name's Scramsax. It's a pleasure to meet you. And he'll just start pouring some ales. Assuming everybody else starts to walk by, Johan, it's not going to take you long. Like looking over, there's probably about 20 or so people inside of here. And it only takes you a moment to kind of look around and see that there's one person kind of like standing, walking between a few different tables, who's kind of like commanding the attention of everybody around them in the way that you kind of expect the captain of a ship to do. And as they kind of like turn around and spin, you see like long flowing black hair and just like all of these different things from different cultures and different times, as well as just entire like um kind of like bandoliers of bones, but I just want to say almost like leather kind of like um straps decorated in bone. And it's different things, like there's like teeth on some are like an actual jaw. You can see that she's holding like a cup that's an upturned skull and actually drinking out of the skull. But very quickly you're going to recognize this is Helka.
Yeah, Johann would stride up, it would stride right up to her and say, Captain Helka Jägersrath, if I don't miss my guess.
And who are you to know me at such an eye?
I am a sailor named Johann, and in the background, Torleth would instantly cry, "They call him Storm Herald!" And we have heard that you are seeking some workers for your ship.
In the process of you kind of saying that you're a sailor and kind of introducing the rest of yourself, she's going to kind of clasp her hand into your arm, where you guys are like both kind of holding each other by the elbow, and just give you like a thorough shaking. And she'll like raise her um, the skull hand out towards Scramsax, and she'll just kind of yell out, "A round of ales for my friend here and his herald. You should join me, friend."
Thank you, Captain.
And just kind of like turning around, she'll look over. There's like two people sitting at a larger table, and she'll just kind of like do a little like tip of her head as their attention's kind of grabbed, and they'll stand up and she'll kind of smirk a little bit to them. And this table here is open. Join me, Johann. Tell me, where have you come from that you're seeking this employ?
Most recently, Caer Konig. I was born here in the north, grew up in the south, but have spent most of my life at sea. But it was in Caer Konig that we heard that you might be needing some help. And Johann, waves the others over to join him. These are my traveling companions, uh, most of whom I met in Caer Konig, though this one, and he indicates Torleth, has been dogging my heels uh, for months now.
Well met all, and it could be quite fortuitous for us to find each other. I am indeed seeking out a crew of sorts. I have a venture at hand. Need to pick up some oil from some whalers out on the sea of the moving ice.
The very land of my birth. Do tell, when does this work begin, if you're interested? hiring the likes of us.
There's always work. Uh, the towns are in need of whale oil more than ever. Every tree cut is a tree that won't be seen here again anytime soon. If we can make it out to the whalers, we can surely bring back a large bounty and make a pretty coin.
Johann looks around to his fellow adventurers. Johann is quick, just as they were mostly interested in the magic, and the thing that they knew about. To Johann, this is, very much the type of adventure that he is familiar with and understands. So to him, this seems like a great opportunity, and so he's looking to them to see how they react.
Yeah, so Brannick is he's definitely interested. He also likes the idea of making some coin. Um, he might ask like, and how long would this how long do you think this trip out to see these whalers would take? Should all go relatively smoothly.
With all things moving smooth, I think we can make the round trip in about a 10-day. If I bring my oil back to Bryn Shander, make my sale, I should be able to pay 150 gold for those who are accompanying me.
And so Brannick's eyebrows would kind of rise at that, and he would he's torn. So he's torn because he likes money and magic. He would probably look towards. He would glance towards because he saw also that Felixis seemed very excited about the magic, so he would kind of look towards her to see, kind of trying to gauge her reaction to this idea. Rashad, are you there?
Is it going around in a circle? Is your
I figured.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I figured Larry and I both had audio issues, so I just wanted to check to see if you can like hear us all right and stuff, or if you were talking, because if I couldn't hear you.
Check.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just kind of like, I don't know what happened. I zoned out for a moment. Well, but yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, I
Okay.
can hear you, Rashad.
Say
Okay.
what?
So, sorry. Go ahead, Rashad.
I thought you were saying like, I thought you said something. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. So essentially, Brannick was wanted. So, Johan was speaking with Captain Helka and asked, so the idea essentially, like, we think it would be about a 10-day to, again, assuming a relatively smooth journey and all that, to go out to the whalers, come back, about 150 gold. And Brannick is kind of he's kind of torn between that and sort of the trying to go immediately to look for this McFredia. So he was just looking towards Velixis to see kind of her thoughts on this.
If it'll take 10 days, that is quite a while. But it doesn't seem like It doesn't seem like the security is just going to be going anywhere. Well, actually, no. If it's moving, it could have already moved anyway. So we kind of do need coin. We can't continue doing our travels without it.
It's even possible that Macredius is perhaps we'll run across him on if we do go north. If we're
Sure.
going to be going out by ship, perhaps we could bring the supplies with us, and if we happen to come across him or learn of his whereabouts,
That does sound like a good idea. Because it would suck to run into it while we're in the middle of the ocean fishing and have our supplies. So, yeah, let's grab our supplies and head, and we can head out to help the fishermen out there. And then, if we run into it out there, we can see what we can learn. Otherwise, when we get back, we can continue.
yeah. So I guess at this, so like kind of after this, Brannick would look towards the captain and like, do you have to do you need to head out any particular time? We might have a bit of business still in town tomorrow.
Every day spent in town for me is a bit more coin spent, but I could wait a day for you.
And is it from Bremen we ship down the whatever river it is to get to the moving ice, or do we join the ship elsewhere?
Oh, we'll be going a little bit elsewhere. Eh, but Bremen will be the last of our stops before we head off into the tundra itself. My ride may be a little bit more unique than the normal ship you might see. There's few ships that can last in the sea of moving ice. And I've found my own was never up to it. So I've moved away from such things.
So that definitely piques Braddock's interest as well. He's thinking, you know, maybe there's something magical or yeah. So he's definitely curious to see this mysterious ship.
So, you all need a day in Bryn Shander? We'll move on from there. You'll keep me guard, and we'll all sit pretty with a nice payday by the end. Tell me, do you have coins yourselves that you could invest in a good venture? If you're able to invest, I'd be happy to split your share 50-50. My contact, your profit.
So Johann is intrigued. He's not particularly as with all sailors, he has a tendency to spill his money, and he's, oh, I'm always interested in such a shares agreement on a ship. I even have a few gold I could offer. Not much, but poor seaman's wages, but perhaps 5 gold?
And I'm never one to turn down a promising investment, though I'll admit to being a bit, shall we say, cash poor at the moment.
That's acceptable then. Maybe to the future. And she'll just raise her skull and just kind of cheers everybody to a drink, to a trip into the sea of moving ice, and a delightful return on Azurak's back.
To the sea, says Johann, totally totally blowing past the on Azurak's back aspect.
Bronick will nod and down, join in the toast. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut someone off there.
So, assuming you are all set for this evening, you all can get a room here at the Northlook. You can basically stay in a communal area for 5 copper, or you can get a room for 5 silver that will sleep 4 people. So basically, it's something like a gold for all of you, or you can do um, whatever, like 6 copper um, to do communal.
Johann would be sort of assuming that they do communal. He's not he's used to bunking on ships.
And Brennick's, he wasn't lying about being a little cash poor, so he's good with communal room for tonight.
I'm good on communal.
So you all can lay down to rest, enjoying your evening, and we can pick up with that with your next dawn. In general, if you all want to go about Bryn Shander, you are more than welcome to. Otherwise, when you are ready, we can obviously fast forward through a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay, then. Yeah, Velix is like, so since it's the next, picking up with the next dawn, she's waking up and getting ready to go see the wizard. And she looks around to see if Brennick is up or not already.
Yeah, I think Brannick would be. He gets up fairly early, so he'd be like as he said yesterday. He'd be curious to meet this wizard as well.
Sure, Johann's used to taking the dawn watch, so he habitually rises early. Torleth is uh, a little more crapulous, having entertained the entire tavern with tales of the great monster that they battled just outside the gates of this very city just a few hours ago. Uh, you can ask the guards themselves. One of them was such and such and so and so. But of course, uh, the tale grew more and more elaborate through the night.
So when you all head off through the town, you basically walk down the main thoroughway as you climb higher and higher towards the peak of Bryn Shander. where you have a good overlook of kind of the surroundings about you. Most of the highest point is like an open market that, while it sees some kind of action, in general, most people don't really come here since the cold has gotten so bad. But you would see the town hall just to the south of you all, and just kind of in the shadow, kind of beyond the town hall, you see a spire that kind of sticks up out of nowhere, and it seems to get wider the higher it goes up, and it very clearly sticks out as having no snow on it. And you all can make your way past the town hall a little bit more south, and eventually find yourself at what seems to be this small little tower that's maybe 10 feet wide with a door in the center of it. And it seems about 10 feet up, it's about 20 feet wide. About 30 feet up, it's about 35 feet wide. And it just gets wider the higher it goes.
I'm curious to see what he had, what items he has. I'm just kind of looking to see if I can get some objects for myself. But now that we're up close upon this tower, I'm kind of more curious about why his tower is the only thing without snow.
Because he would go ahead and walk up towards the door. He'd also be kind of interested, to be piqued by kind of the architectural choices, but he figures, wizards have their being a wizard himself, he knows that wizards they all have their own kind of weird little idiosyncrasies. But he would kind of give a knock at the door.
There's just going to be a few moments of silence till eventually you hear from within. Oh, come in, come in. Oh, welcome. And as you kind of like go to open the door, there's just going to be like an explosion of sorts. Nothing like it's dangerous to you, but from inside, something just blew up.
Willix is kind of just laughs. Ha! I know what that means.
You're gonna eventually open the door, and you'll see inside just stacks and stacks of all kinds of drawers. No drawer is the same as the next one, and they're just stacked up high, leaning on top of each other. Some of them actually make like archways over the actual area. But within kind of this view of this narrow kind of twist of stacks, you see just a little old person who's completely like covered in long white hair, and it's like wrapped around him and kind of like draped over him, and he seems to be sitting behind a desk. And there's, come in, welcome. How are you?
Did your voice just change?
I do so many voices, maybe they change sometimes. Get over it.
Morning, Akalos, I presume.
Yes, yes.
Brannick will kind of glancing around at the clutter. He'll the uh the drawers, and then he'll kind of look back to Akalos and allow me to introduce myself. My name is Brannick, and he'll kind of gesture and allow the others to introduce themselves.
Akkalos is going to summon a hand that's just spectral in front of you, and it's just standing there like ready to shake each of your hands one after another.
Willix just hesitantly shakes the spectral hand and introduces herself. Hi, I'm Velixis.
Brannick will kind of he'll kind of smirk, and he's going to summon his own mage hand to shake the Akalos's mage hand.
Johann kind of looks at all this, everything that's going on, and is just like, kind of mutters under his breath, "Land people," and shakes the hand and kind of formally, "My name is Johann. They come call me Storm Herald," and then falls back into silent into judgmental silence.
When you say Storm Herald, Akalos is going to kind of wink at you, and there's just a crack of thunder. Wait,
Is it?
what have you?
I'm sorry, because I was just reading to be sure that I could do that. Um, uh, I use a thaumaturgy to rumble right back at him.
What have you come to search out Akalos for? What can I help you with?
Well, I was just kind of curious if you had any any scrolls that you were willing to part with, any gems or stones that you might be willing to part with for a fellow wizard.
I could write a scroll for you. What are you looking for? What kind of gems do you search for?
Honestly, I didn't think about that. Would I need a specific gem to enchant with, or can I just enchant any regular gem? And as for the scroll, I'm just pretty much looking for something I don't already, a spell or anything I don't already know.
Are you going to hand me your book of spells?
Yes.
He'll take your book from you.
Wait, I'm sorry. I may have missed that. You asked if I'm hampering it, or
Will you hand me your book of spells?
oh, sure. Okay, she hands him the book.
As he goes to reach for it, he's just going to kind of like slip a little bit, and you're going to see as your spell book is going to disappear. Oh, whoopsie, clumsy me. What's your reaction? What are you doing, Francis? Your spell book just
I'm
disappeared.
sorry. I honestly kind of like you said that, and I kind of blanked out for a second. I was silently cursing. Um, she kind of like grabs him by his collar and just starts screaming at him.
Make a dexterity check. You can't automatically grab this person. As you reach out and you grab the slightest bit of his collar, he's just going to disappear into a poof, and you're going to hear from upstairs. Silly, silly wizard. It's just a joke, but you'll learn to keep your hands off. And your book's going to reappear on the desk that he just left.
She just grumbles to herself as she grabs her book.
So, what have you come searching for?
Crazy person, apparently.
Well, Might I ask? We've been traveling these parts a bit.
I'm aware.
Of course you are. But I suppose what I wanted to ask is there is there anything that you happen to be in need of that we could keep an eye out for in our travels? Perhaps something that we could exchange for something my friend here might be interested in.
There are many things that I need. Few things that your kind would pay. But I think not. I think if you. And again, this is now like echoing through the tower. You guys no longer see Akelos. I think if you need anything from me, you are welcome to purchase such things. But I think you might find yourselves distant from the help that I require. So at this point, if you have anything in particular you are looking for, I can give you a price. This is somebody you can buy stuff from, but it doesn't mean like just walking in here and saying like, "What do you have for me?" Everything. This person is a much more powerful wizard than you are.
Give me a second, real quick. Then she's going through her books to go over and check and see what it is she's looking for exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Brannick was more interested in meeting this person. He doesn't have anything particular to. Not that he doesn't think he couldn't afford anything anyway. So he was more coming just to kind of meet the Wizard of Bryn Shander and was impressed, but also like he's getting the sense there might be a screw or two loose here.
So you can definitely take your time looking, Rashad, but there's not necessarily any reason to still be here and not continue on with things. Like again, like you're welcome to purchase things. I am not sure if you all have the coin for what you might be hoping for. Like Akelos will cast a level 1 spell for you for 25 gold. Akelos will create a scroll for you for 50 gold for a level 1 spell. And it only gets more expensive from there.
Okay, then yeah, she's okay. Well, I'm good with moving on. Um,
But that's like where if during this week, if you come up with spells that you are looking for, this is a person that you can come to and purchase spells. If you are looking for gems, this is a person you can purchase gems from. Um, but it's one of those things where, have that stuff in mind prior to kind of thing.
got it. Speaking of gems, how much would a ruby would a gem his cheapest gem be?
What are you looking for though? His cheapest gem, like gems have a value that they're worth. So a gold?
More specific, I guess more specifically, a sapphire gem.
Yes, but that's what I mean. Like, if you want a sapphire gem that is worth 10 gold, I can sell you a 10 gold sapphire. But, like, in general, you should be searching for something that has a value. If you just want to have sapphire with you, I can most certainly sell you sapphire.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But like if you're looking for something that's a particular like component, components will almost always say the value that it requires. And in general, I would say you're probably looking like, I mean, especially at the levels you all are at, I don't think there's anything other than like chromatic orb that requires a 10 gold diamond. Um, and that just means you need to spend 10 gold on a diamond. But like if you just want like some sapphire, I can sell you like sapphire flakes for like a gold a piece, basically, kind of thing. If you want a sapphire that's like the size of your thumb, it's probably going to be like 150 gold.
Yeah, I don't have a gold for that. Yeah, she's Willis is good to move on because she doesn't think she's going to be able to get what she wants right now.
So yeah, Baranek would kind of call up to the kind of disembodied voice at this point, or for the voice from upstairs, and just suggest they might call him again, and sort of thank him for you know uh, his time, and then suggest maybe they take their leave for now.
Gonna see is some of the drawers start to like open and close as you hear like the voice coming through, and you kind of see that like the filing cabinets have almost like taken on the shape of Aklos's face, and he's just gonna say, "Well, have a most pleasant of days, and if you find the black cabin, return to me then."
So
Willis
Baranek
just
is
kind of looks
just
at
gonna. Sorry, go ahead, Rashad.
Willis just kind of looks at Brennick and said, "Did we mention the black cabin to him, or did I miss that?"
You most certainly did not.
Yeah, Brannick would have kind of, as he was kind of walking out and hearing this, he kind of would have like almost like stumbled a little bit, um, and then he would, at Velixis's question, he would kind of give like a small shake of his head, and then just nod towards the door and suggest they exit.
Well, I think Johann will kind of, round when he realizes that um, Akalos has such knowledge, and he says, "It seems that you've been keeping an eye on us. What can you tell us of the creature we encountered last night?"
I keep an eye on much of 10 towns. And as to what tried to join you in Bryn Shander, it was little more than a servant of Aral. Are you surprised that she's taking interest in you?
I'm interested only in knowing if we encounter it again, if there is how we might defeat it. I only turned it away last night. If we encounter more, it might not work again.
Like anything else, trust in yourselves.
It seemed immune to fire. Is that the case?
It serves ice. What ice do you know that is immune to fire?
Johann looks at Brannick and says, It seemed to shrug off those hands of yours, those flaming hands of yours.
Well, I suppose perhaps a few more blasts might have done a bit more. Perhaps we were too hasty in our retreat.
Johann nods, accepting the explanation of those who were more knowledgeable than him.
So you all can prepare to leave, and heading out through the door, you kind of notice in a little bit of hindsight the massive temperature change between being inside here and walking back out into Bryn Shander. It definitely is a shock at first. You start to notice, like, was I sweating? Was that the first time I've been sweating since I've been here?
Millicent kind of realizes, crap. We forgot to ask him why his tower is the only thing not frozen in ice. But then again, from all this sweat, I wouldn't doubt if he had an oven underneath this thing. Crazy old kook.
Make an Arcana check, Vilixis. You're not entirely sure what magic it might be, only that perhaps the tower just doesn't actually exist in Bryn Shander. And that kind of like sticks a little bit in your head, like, maybe we actually left this area.
In my experience, a wizard that eccentric is found to be rather powerful as well. Suggest we tread carefully around him. I don't imagine he means us harm, but
Speaking of, I need to check my spell book and see if he did anything crazy to it.
Go look through, it's all the same.
Okay.
So as you all leave the Tower of Hakalos, do you have anything else you would like to do in Bryn Shander? Are you ready to go check in with Copper like at the end of that evening?
I'd like to purchase a dagger sometime during the day.
Gotcha. So you all can stop off at Black Iron Blades. Are any of you now the remainder of that party? No. Brannick was not there at that point?
that was still Carvath, I'm pretty sure, with the
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you can just buy a dagger at PHB prices. I can look it up if you don't have a book on hand.
I'll figure it out.
But other than that, like, you all can go to Copper, acquire like a little satchel. I would just say one of you throw like a 5-pound custom item on your character and just say provisions for Macretus. And then you all could pretty much return to the Northlook, find Helka, and essentially let her know that you are ready that next morning.
Yeah, I mean, Brannick didn't really have any other anything else in town, so that's good with him. I can go ahead and add that provisions if somebody else hasn't already.
I'm adding it right now.
If you didn't find the dagger yet, Larry, it's 2 gold.
Yep, got it.